This is a Loud and Drunk News Alert. Now, from the Loud and Drunk News Desk, here's Dan Legendson. Welcome, everybody, to the Loud and Drunk Podcast. Our top story, winter storm inebriation continues to hammer the United States. All across the country, people struggle to dig themselves out of the snow because they are just too drunk. With more, we go to Moses, who is standing by at a local pub. Moses, what is the scene like at the pub?
Dan, I'm down here at Stonefire Grill, and the snow has not deterred anyone from getting here. We have a packed house. I'm currently waiting on some delicious honey sriracha wings. Everybody seems to be in good spirits, and they are getting considerably hammered.
Thank you, Moses. Joining me now in studio is Justin. Justin, what have you been seeing on the ground?
You know, Dan, just so happy to be here with you. It's madhouse out there. It's a skating rink. I hate it, and I know we'll get into it soon, but just know the winter has my ire.
Also joining us is Storms McKenzie, who is tracking the pattern of super winter Saiyan storm inebriation. Storms, thank you for joining us.
Unfortunately, Storms did need to step away. He was drinking quite excessively. I'm his friend Velvet Baritone, and he asked me to fill in for him. As far as I can tell, everything is going quite well. People are enjoying their beverages. Storms had a little bit too much, but I mean, it is the season for it. So I think that everything is going very well out here. Moses, I hope that you enjoy those wings over there in the field, and I look forward to trying some of them with you.
They are delightful there, Velvet, and, well, I should be back in the studio shortly. I have 4 or 5 more shots to take down.
If you want a Lady in the Tramp any of those, I am on board.
All right, I will get 2 straws for these shots and bring them back to the office.
That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Baritone. Before we continue on with our coverage, let's hear from our sponsor. We talk about food a lot here, so let me tell you about one of the best places around. Head over to Stonefire Grill in Beechwood and enjoy the best wings in Ocean County. Whether it's date night or just headed to the bar to watch the game, Stonefire's atmosphere and delicious menu will leave you impressed. Tell them Loud and Drunk sent you.
I've actually been there. I've been to Stonefire Grill, and it is rather fantastic.
Is that where Storms is right now?
Storms is there. Yeah, Storms is there, and
In the storm gutter?
Yeah. I made it playful before, but the situation is actually very real, and some might use the word perilous. As far as the bar itself, they deliver everything that you're looking for. I pretty much go there for the casual drink and some of the delightful food. Storms overstepped those bounds a little bit and didn't register any of the food initially, so that's a situation that will most likely end up with some sort of a hospital visit. So we're going to be taking that drive when we get all done recording here. That said, my general commentary about going there is try the wings.
Hopefully Storms makes it. Praying for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Damn Storms. Really made me look like a fool, by the way. I introduced him and like, he's not here. Like, fuck that guy. But
So unprofessional.
Yeah. The fucking wings are legitimately phenomenal. And the only thing, although I try not to consume this every time that I visit, it bears mentioning. It's the variety of mac and cheeses that they have that are done at like a 5-star Michelin level, which seems completely unnecessary to do. And yet they're absolutely fantastic. So if anybody does make the journey to go and visit there, I strongly recommend it. That said, it's like a go-to-sleep meal in the best kind of way.
I was about to say, if I ever want to off myself by lactose, I will absolutely. Go check that out.
Yeah, they are massive.
It's a giant fucking bowl. Yeah.
And like you can also get like pulled pork on it.
I was just going to say it's the pulled pork one, yeah. And it's like, I normally, I'll have like the steak bites or something because I'm drinking and then I need a little bit of
need that protein.
Yeah, right.
Really soaks it up.
A little protein in there to soak it up. But then it's like every now and again enough time goes by and I'm like, because I think about it every time. I'm like, I want the fucking pulled pork mac and cheese. And I really do. And I stop myself from doing that because I do need to actually work as well.
Oh, the hedonism of it.
Yeah. And then enough time passes and I'm like, no, I can just eat that and still I'll just take 5 minutes afterwards and then I'm good to get back to work and I eat it. And it's the greatest meal that I've had since the last time that I had it. And then I just take a nap and I wake up at midnight. I've missed 10 calls from my girlfriend. It's like that.
Curious how 5 minutes could turn into 3 days.
I would recommend the Lacey burger there. It's a burger and it's got pulled pork on it. Two of my favorite food groups,
Yeah.
pork and red meat.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you need that variety.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that is legit.
It's
I think-
amazing. Go check it out, please.
I think Tuesday I'm going back there. We're doing this.
I'd also like to take this time to encourage you to subscribe to this podcast. We are on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, and everywhere else you get your podcast. If you are on YouTube and Rumble, smash that like button, leave us a comment, share this video with your friends, and get in on the conversation by joining us on social media at Loud and Drunk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We did have the news alert.
Yes.
And, we are tracking the pattern of this winter storm, Inebriation. It has been snowing. It has been incredibly cold outside.
Yes, it has.
So it got us thinking maybe we should actually talk about how it sucks being in winter weather.
Perfect example. It fucked up our recording.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
schedule.
Yeah. We normally record on Friday nights. And
This is 6 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yes.
I missed church for this.
It seemed very apropos and like the right time to do it.
So what is your least favorite thing about having to deal with the snow? Especially since, Justin, you do a whole lot of driving, so I can imagine that could
I'm on the road all day, every day, through the hottest days of summer, but like we're going to talk about winter right now. It sucks fucking balls. I work right on the shore area, that wind kicking off the ocean and the bay. It feels like it's like negative 10 degrees.
It cuts through. Yeah. It's that feels like temperature versus like the proper
Well,
one.
yeah, and but also like the high's been like 25 degrees lately.
Yeah.
Like snow's fine. It's fine. I like to see it like once.
Yeah. I like it better because a few years ago we had like a blizzard.
Yes.
And I conveniently had COVID, so I'm like, I couldn't go out anyway, so this is perfect.
The
not
good
missing
Lord smiles
anything.
upon us sometimes.
Yeah. I felt so bad because normally it's the weekend and I want to go out and drink. We're like, well, no one's doing that because it's fucking snowing.
I work one of those jobs where it's like, you got to be there. I had to show up, like, and this is not really related, but like Hurricane Sandy all those years ago when everything was flooded, houses were gone, and I still had to report.
And you're driving a metal box, basically.
Yes. I drive an uninsulated tin can on wheels. In the summer, I call it the Easy Bake Oven. In the winter, it is not better, but I don't have an equivalent type nostalgic.
It's a freezer.
Yeah. And they're terrible, super light, don't handle well on water,
roads.
rain, much less snow. But like I said, I like to see the snow at least once. It's like a marker of winter is here and is past. The ice, though.
Yes, the ice is
The
killer.
the ice is the real motherfucker of the whole situation. And that's what's really been stomping on our nuts this past week.
Yeah, the snow comes down, it's very pretty, it melts, and then it freezes. And yeah, it's just a fucking ice rink, basically.
Well, usually, too, like, if it gets warm enough, there won't be any ice and you will be fine. It'll just turn into slush. We'll move on. But when it does that deep cold in the middle of the night, then it all freezes over. That's one of the big reasons why we had to move the recording of the podcast. It's like, we follow our little, our model. That it is loud and drunk. We do get loud and we do get drunk on the podcast. So we can't be driving around when there's snow. Like, it's like that episode.
That is fair. We all gotta get home.
Yeah. It'll be like that episode of South Park when they're like, oh, yeah, we're all drunk. Let's go driving. Can't have that.
You ain't wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to drive here. No Ubers would have been operating in their right. Well, and if
You
an
can't-
Uber was operating, you do not want to be with that
Right.
Uber.
You can't count on it.
No.
Yeah, in many ways.
But yeah, it's like it's here. We're in the depths of it right now. We're a little out of our element with our recording schedule right now, but we're making it work today.
Not gonna work, The good Lord smiled.
Moses, what's your least favorite thing to deal with in terms of winter weather?
It's the other drivers. Like, I know there's typically not a whole lot on the road at that time, but man, it's the worst ones. And granted, I'm out there too.
Really sabotages our data points here.
It's the worst drivers, and they'll either go 5 miles an hour
Well.
or 90 miles an hour, and there's no in between, so it's just so hard to maintain in a lane because you got one person that you're just trying to get around, but meanwhile there's cars buzzing past you that if I pull out now, I know they're 100 feet back, but they can't stop anywhere.
There's never a good time to pull out, is there?
No, that's why you got to stick
No,
to
there
it.
isn't.
You gotta stick to it. Just stay in there, let it work itself out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Words to live by.
Yes. And fortunately, with all the ice, any mistake that happens can typically be fixed with a nice fall.
Wow. I love that.
As a quick addendum, so this past year I bought a gigantic vehicle that I now drive, which is excellent in snow, but on ice, it's over 4 tons. This truck weighs. Yeah, no, ice doesn't care.
Yeah,
and
all the weights in the front.
Physics. Physics dictate, all that mass and momentum. You just keep going, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
The good thing about your car, though, is if you did start sliding, anything you crack into will just like bend.
Oh, no. Oh, I won't be hurt.
Yeah.
No, I'll be fine.
Everything else will be destroyed.
Yeah.
That poor family of 4
You just went straight through a house.
just ended a
Just keeps on
bloodline.
going.
But Moses, I was dealing with that on the way to the studio. You got to do a little roundabout. And there were 2 people in front of me literally going like 10. I was like, you could go a little faster than that.
Yeah, and this is a couple days after this storm. I was like, the roads are okay now.
There's a right way to drive, and if you're not capable of doing that, maybe you shouldn't be on the road.
Yeah.
That is kind of the thing. If you are to the point where you're driving like 5-10 miles an hour and you're so terrified to drive, don't drive.
Just don't drive.
Just don't.
Nothing's
there's
that
ambulances that'll get you to where you're going.
And that's what a lot of people that were in front of me probably needed to go because they seemed like they were 112.
Yeah, exactly right.
It is a Dawn of the Dead kind of scenario where everybody is just meandering.
And it also is a Sunday. When we're recording this, so they're all just milling about.
Yeah, it's the thing. It's the Sunday. It's like that old thing. Oh, everybody's out on a Sunday drive.
Yeah.
Just go looky-loon at whatever
they
fuck
gotta get
pass.
to church. They gotta get to church.
All right, Mr. Baritone, what's your least favorite thing to deal with in terms of winter weather?
Well, I'll predicate this by saying that I do have a little bit of an antithesis perspective to some people. I absolutely love the winter. I love the snow and so on and so forth, all of these things, even beyond just the beauty of it. I would love to live in fucking like a place where it's like Canada, just snows goddamn nonstop. That said, despite that I enjoy the season, I enjoy the beauty of it and this and that, the challenges are kind of the things that you guys pointed out. Now, when it's snowing out, if I don't have to drive, then I'll avoid that. As I think anyone rational would also make that decision.
You would hope.
Yeah, but I did very legitimately, when it was coming down the other day, I did very legitimately go over to Stonefire Grill. I had nothing else to do. I was like, I'm going to go and get myself a little, I said a bite to eat, but I knew that I was going there to drink. But I drove there. I took I was very casual about it. The roads were basically good, but they were a little bit slippery.
Yeah.
And it's exactly as you guys described it, where I was like, I had like some people who were going 10 miles an hour in front of me. The roads were clear. There was really no reason to do that. But on the flip side, I would get past that person eventually, and there would be somebody riding my ass 12 inches away.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, you don't have that much space. That's not a thing. And I'm still going 5 over the speed limit because the roads were fine, but there was just no reason for it.
No, at that point, they were absolutely fine because they hadn't frozen. It was the day. It was warm, warm enough not to freeze, but cold enough to snow.
Yeah. And it is funny, though, and this is something where it kind of goes with it. So this is the benefit that I think that you get out of the shitty stuff. So we all feel it in terms of the driving sucks. Basically, when you look outside your window and there's 2 feet on the ground, you look at that and you're like, okay, so everything that I needed to do was a little bit more complicated than it was yesterday. But what I will say is very interesting, going to Stonefire, but also I've experienced this at many bars over the years. There's this camaraderie that occurs.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're the ones who chose to drive to the bar today. A lot of people are just my kid's out of school, school's canceled, this and that. I'm just going to stay home, and this is just a do-nothing kind of day. But there's a dedicated group.
We the brave few.
Exactly, yeah. And so, everybody there, it's almost you kind of tip your hat to them, and it's we chose to do this because we're fucking G's.
That's a fun way to put alcoholic. But
I just came up with a would you rather if you guys want to participate in this.
Please.
So,
I love these.
would you rather be snowed in at work or be on a grounded airplane and you're stuck on that airplane for a while?
Work.
Work.
I have TV and beer at work, so I'd be fine.
I put thought into this, and as a person that sat on the runway for 7.5 hours in France once, work, absolutely.
Yeah. An airplane is the coziest environment you could imagine. Yeah.
And there's only 2 bathrooms, so if you have to go in that 7 hours, it's just a pain in the ass because you're going to get yelled at by the stewards and stewardesses, and whoever you're sitting next to is, if you're not in an aisle seat, they're going to be complaining too.
You're also going to be stuck on there. If it's the summer too, they don't turn the air on.
They can't run it. Yeah.
So.
Oh, and it starts to stink. It all just smells.
Yeah.
You might as well just go to the bathroom there because it's not going to make a difference.
Like I said, I was stuck on a runway in France. It stank.
Ooh, the stank.
Everybody was carrying cheese that day. It was bizarre.
I think so. Smuggling up their ass.
Yeah, I would have to go with work too.
So it's unanimous.
So it's unanimous. The one thing that I would have to say though is I would probably try to leave anyway.
Oh, well, yes.
I would try to put the tennis rackets on my shoes.
I feel like you could. That question is so loaded though, because you have to go to such an extreme for anybody to choose something different.
Yeah.
Because you could say would you rather be stuck on a plane or in a concentration camp in 1944?
Yeah.
And I'm doing it in my head even before I said this out loud. I'm really thinking about the camp. I'm really entertaining that idea.
Yeah, listen, it's rough out there, folks.
on the plane, hope is the last thing to die, like a concentration camp.
Yeah. It do be like that.
That's because hope is a dangerous thing.
But speaking of airplanes, because there's a whole thing with snowbird culture where people get the hell out of here, to go down to Florida, have a good time down there because it's nice and warm, or at least compared to here. Interested to hear what you guys have to say about that, because I would like to get the hell out of here too. It goes down to some place that's nicer, maybe Colombia.
Yeah, maybe Colombia. Yeah. I'll chime in on this one first. I have mixed feelings about it, but I'll take this hard angle to it. I've always kind of had this opinion where if you're the snowbird, like it gets cold here and you peace out to some place that's nicer, there's like a bitch quality there to me where I feel like we should man up and just this is your home and you should be adapted to do all the things there. That said, I very much engage in the same behavior. So I am a hypocrite. I think that everybody kind of gets that because we get people here in Jersey who come down from more northern latitudes. It's the same thing that happens in reverse in the summertime. People come to the beach to cool off.
Being from New Jersey, we're kind of in the mix. We have people that come here from higher latitude, and we have a lot of our people that go down to Florida or especially in the most recent years, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
It's like climate tourism, and it's like, don't get me wrong, on the note of Colombia, I love to go and visit Colombia in the wintertime. It's a nice little break, and it allows me to appreciate the cold. And I guess I'm kind of distilling my own thoughts as I say it out loud, but that's kind of what it is. It's like I feel like snowbird culture revolves around people who really just don't ever want to be cold at all, not experience it.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
but why not just move to that warmer state year round?
All right, so by the virtue of my job, listen, by the rules, I can't say where I work. If you're smart, you can figure it out. I deal with a lot of snowbirds, and I have to deal with their nonsense. And largely, snowbirds are older people. They just can't tolerate the cold.
Yeah, exactly.
The older you get, my knees or my hips.
Yeah,
and
it all starts hurting.
Everything's freezing up. Got to go down to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, and I feel
Fort
like
It's not that much warmer.
I feel like you should be, and I'm not the age of those
that's the point. Why they do the snowbird thing is because they're trying to hang out in the area of 70 degrees.
Yeah.
They won't be in, say, Florida or South Carolina in the summer.
No.
Because
Too hot and humid.
Yeah, they can't deal with it.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be here where it's in the 20s in the winter because everything just locks up, I guess. And, the Tin Man.
For all that, just go to San Diego. It's 70 degrees there every single
year
day.
round, but that's the reason San Diego is San Diego.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think that, lots of people grow up in environments where it's very similar. I'll say this, though, because I've visited Colombia a million fucking times over more than a decade now, that what you consider to be cold and what you consider to be hot is very much so based off of what you personally have adapted to.
Yeah.
Because down in Colombia, where the temperature always ranges between 70 and 100 degrees, so it's only a 30-degree spread, which is not typical of any place that's north or south of there, There, I've been in spots where it's particular parts of it, where it's pretty much a steady 80, all the time. At night, it's 70.
Yep.
During the day, it's 80, right? And that's in the islands that kind of surround Cartagena, where I normally go. And the people who live on those little islands who are regular, they're not fucking hoity people. They're poor people who live on the island. They make their money by selling, fucking lobster they caught, that type of thing.
Yep.
And even they, despite being very well adapted to it, they consider 70 degrees to be extremely cold.
Yeah.
To where you have to bundle up. Because I've been in that boat where they're like, can I buy that jacket that you have? Because we don't sell jackets here because it gets as cold as 70. But they get cold at night. Whereas obviously for ourselves living where we live, you have a much larger spread. Sometimes it gets as cold as 20, 10 degrees, something like that. And it can get as hot as 100 in really bad years. So it's a very big spread. It's based off of you.
Yeah. There is a point, and granted, it is what I know by growing up here. I have an appreciation for the seasons, and that goes to I like to see the snow once. It's a marker of the season. It's when you get into that January into February into the beginning of March.
You get tired of it.
The deep freeze kind of section of so-called winter. But my dad's family, they're all in the South. Southern Alabama and like Florida and shit like that. And they come up and visit from time to time, and it could be 70, as you said, 70 degrees out, and they're wearing like a jacket.
Yeah.
And
your body adapts.
Yeah.
It's funny too because we have a friend, Kate, who lives down in Florida.
Yeah.
And she gets cold on warm days. She was telling me where my brother lives. My brother lives in Panama City. She's like, yeah, the Panhandle, it's cold up there. And I'm like, what in the actual hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
I have been there, and it was like in like April when I was there, and it was shockingly cold in Mexico Beach.
Yeah.
It was like I was standing there, I'm like going into the water, I'm like, I'm not dunking my head in this shit.
Yeah, fair.
I'll say a key benefit to it that we've been losing over the past decade in this state. There's no insects when it's cold out.
No,
yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you need them. So I'm not going to talk total shit on those characters that we live with on this planet. But that said, to have a reprieve for a few months out of the year, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
There's no mosquitoes.
No mosquitoes, no
nothing
horseflies,
outside.
greenheads, whatever you call them in your
Yeah.
particular area.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mosquitoes always go after me. I mentioned that on a prior podcast
Oh, yes,
in the
yeah,
summer.
yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
I like the reprieve, but it's never a reprieve because there's always something else wrong. So you just trade in the mosquitoes for like my skin gets all cracked up and then I start
there you
breaking.
go.
Oh, well, I mean...
6 to 1, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah. So where I work, I had the mosquitoes, and I have what we call typically greenhead flies or horse flies that bite the shit out of you
they
in the
suck.
summer. In the winter, I'm outside all day. My knuckles split open and just bleed.
Yeah.
It's like my
That's
lips
all about
fall off.
And I'll say this though as well. It's that for your job you have to do you've got shit that you got to do with your hands that requires a little bit of dexterity.
Yes,
so you
yeah.
can't wear like
I
proper
can't wear
winter
gloves, no.
But if you're dressed appropriately for the weather, and this is how I go about it, because I love this time of year, but I bundle up appropriately and so on and so forth, which means that you're basically wearing winter gloves. You are definitely more limited. There's a lot of things that I would love to be able to do, like this time of year when it's fucking freezing out, and it's just not practical.
No,
to do
it's
it.
not.
So I have to kick that to the side, and do it when there's like hornets like chasing me down in August. But like that is the trade-off for it.
It is.
That said,
It is.
if you're able to dress right for it, and you learn what the appropriate attire is basically, then it's really not bad out when it's 20 degrees. You just need to be able to dress appropriately.
If I can pose a question real quick.
Sure, absolutely.
It only because it came up at work the other day amongst a couple people. Which do you prefer? The coldest of cold days, where you have to be outside, take this as a quantifier, you have to be outside the entire day, or the hottest of hot days?
For me, it's cold. Yeah, it's cold.
I would go hot. For the
Interesting.
outside.
My vote, and I think what was kind of unanimous at my job, is you take the cold because at least you can modulate better, like your layers and stuff like that.
You can
On
be
the
warm when it's cold out.
Yes,
yeah.
on the hottest days, you can only take off so much without being arrested.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you have to find like a pond or a beach and just go like go skinny dipping or something like that.
Now,
Because-
Moses, I'd like to hear your...
Well, I just enjoy being naked, so and class 2 felonies be damned.
Oh, fair.
I'd rather just strip off the layers and then just like bask in that sweat.
Yeah.
Bask.
It's an awful sight, but
Yeah.
It's a skater's body. Drink it in.
I feel like I would kind of second these things that indeed it's that you can only take off so much, but you can always add some warmth to it. I've been out where it was like, 0 degrees and such like that, up in the mountains, up in New York, such
course.
like that. And I've been very comfortable outside. Whiskey helps.
Always.
Whereas, when it's too fucking hot, because like my thing is like, I don't really want to like, I'll put it this way, like in the wintertime when it's fucking balls cold out, I can get done with the work day outside. And then I can go inside, take off the fucking bajillion layers that I'm wearing, and I can just sit down on the sofa and like think about the day, and I'm basically comfortable. It's nice to be warm again. Whereas if I get back inside after an 8-hour day and it's 100 degrees, I'm a disgusting mess. And I just like, I need to take a shower. I still can't get the stank off. It's an unpleasant thing in that.
That's the part I like about it.
I've been
is,
stung by
You
hornets
would.
all day.
You would.
It's just like coming back inside after a hot day and going to take a cool shower and then just relaxing on the bed, just completely naked. Where
Really driving home that's naked.
it's nice, but like in the cold, when I come back in,
And let's
the
place
warmth.
a call to Nancy to see what the others...
That's why we have multiple rooms. But when coming back in from the cold, there's like a pain to the warming up after your hands are like frozen. There's like a.
I mean, yes, there is pain, but like I like...
So I'd rather
Oh,
not have
This
that.
says I like the pain. I guess that tells something about it. So.
The example I'll go with is because I've been to sporting events in very cold weather. I used to go to the Army-Navy game, which is the second Saturday in December.
Right.
And I've also gone to, like, pro football games, like to start the season. Like a couple years ago, the Dolphins played the Jets, and it was their opening day game.
Right.
And it was 90 fucking degrees. Did not help myself that my aunt, my uncle had their anniversary party the night before. And my family embodies loud and drunk in very many ways.
Yeah.
So I was, quite hammered for that. Didn't do me any favors, but I hate being in 90-degree weather regardless. Yeah. And I've been in 20-degree weather. It snowed all fucking day.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just take that because at least, as we talked about before, you can bundle up. There's things that you can do. You can have the little packs for your hands. I will tell you, it's absolutely fucking miserable when you're in the freaking cold all day.
Yeah.
And your hand, once your feet get cold, you're cold.
Yeah.
Because there's no
and it's hard to get warm again.
I will speak to this because this is my reality. Yes, the first thing that happens that will ruin you is your feet will get cold and your day is ruined. Unfortunately, that typically happens to me by about 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, whole day left.
And I've got some of the best gear out there, and you just have to suffer.
Yeah. There's no fixing it. The one that one game where it snowed all day for the Army-Navy game, my cousin bought curly fries or whatever from the stadium.
Yeah.
And it was freezing as it went from the basket to his mouth.
Well, I'll chime in right here with this. This is actually a conversation that you and I just had recently, I'm pretty sure. And this is something where I really don't know the answers here. So I've read about some of the coldest towns or cities on the planet, just casually, because I got nothing better to do with my time. So most of them are in Russia.
Oh, Siberia.
You're in Siberia, Kamchatka, places like that.
I've watched a lot of videos and documentaries on this.
Yeah.
So
I've read a little bit, and this one town, I can't remember the name, but the one town that I was reading about, every place that you can go in town has what we would call a one-level parking garage.
Yes.
That's fully heated, because if you park your car outside, it gets, to put it in perspective, it gets down to negative 70 Fahrenheit.
Oh, yeah.
It's insanely cold temperatures. So if you park your car outside,
your vehicle will not work.
Seize.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything is heated in some way, but you also can't have indoor plumbing.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right, because there's no way to run the pipe.
No, you
It's all
can't.
permafrost. So everybody's got the equivalent of what we would call an outhouse. And then this is the question that I posed to myself. How do you piss? Because really at a certain point, I don't know what this temperature is, because I've been outside where it was the coldest I think that an environment that I've ever personally been in. It was negative 10.
Yeah.
And I whipped my dick out to take a piss, and my dick was cold. Obviously.
And that's miserable.
You gotta bundle the little guy up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Put some earmuffs on him. and shit.
If only it
You
was
break
that
that
easy.
bad boy out. It just wants to go in the full retreat.
Buy this URL, dickcoats.com.
All right. I'm buying it right now. But
Turns your Audi into an innie.
But that's a real question that I was thinking about, because I've also watched these videos where somebody has, and I know there's elements to this that are not necessarily repeated, but it's you whip boiling water.
I was
out.
going to bring this up.
At what point does your piss freeze almost inside of your dick? And that's
Right, because your
terrifying.
piss is only 98.5 degrees.
Yeah. So if it's negative 70, is it should you not take your dick out?
Well, at a
just
certain-
period?
You
You
got
have to
an
hold
icicle
it?
in your dick?
if you're out there long enough, that's gonna happen.
I don't know. It's just a crazy thought that I've lingered on for a minute.
Yeah, you're going over that conversation. I'm and I'm starting to, as I do, because I'm mentally ill, building my thing I would add on to it.
Yeah.
And I'm the boiling water pot thing where you
Yeah.
throw it into the air and it automatically turns to ice.
Yeah.
What happens with your piss?
Yeah, and that's kind of a thing. Are you making piss
Just pissicles. Yellow streams of daggers coming right out of your dick.
Yellow streams.
Oh, that's a metal name.
Yeah, that's definitely a
Metal.
Write that down.
All right, I'm writing it down. That's fine.
But going back to my sports comparison,
Yeah.
I kind of prefer the feeling once you get back into heat, get back into a heated space,
Yes,
whether it's
yeah.
your car or your house or apartment, wherever you're going, you kind of feel a little bit better. It knocks me out. So I can go to sleep right after a game, I'll lay down on the frickin' hotel bed or whatever, and I'll be out for a few minutes because you're just exhausted. You've been shivering all day.
And I've never done this, but one of the big crazes in influencers and stuff like that right now is the cold plunge thing. And I have to think it's something similar to that. Everybody speaks of it's suffering while you're in it, but it's the gratification afterwards.
I'll say
I've done
yeah.
that before, and it was in November years ago when it was still getting exceptionally cold in November, and it would snow for Christmas and whatnot. But I was outside kicking around a soccer ball, and we lived on a lagoon. Mm-hmm. Young kid just kicked right into the lagoon, and I'm well, I don't know how to get that because the edges were frozen, so we couldn't even like get close enough to the dock where I could get a net or something. My father comes out.
Where
like,
we
"Oh."
live, the water's brackish at best.
Yeah.
So just take this in mind.
And he's like, "Oh, you just got to jump in and get it." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" I was a young kid. And he's like, "Yeah, just do that." And so I jumped in, got that soccer ball, and I was shivering.
Yeah.
Like,
You actually lowered your body temperature with the water.
yeah,
It's
and,
dangerous.
And then I got out. My mother was yelling at my father. I could, I'm sitting in a hot shower just trying to get warm, and I could hear the two of them arguing for him allowing me to jump in. But that's why I stopped playing soccer altogether. Because I never wanted to come across that again because it was terrible.
I'll say this on the note of from which temperature you can become comfortable again.
Yeah.
I like watching these shows where it's like these like YouTube channels and whatnot, where it's like hunters who live in like Alaska and shit like that. And one of them said something that actually resonated with me a bit. He basically, so the story here is that the guy goes out on a fucking long ass trap line on a snow machine and this and that, and it breaks down and he has to walk like 10 miles, let's say, back to his cabin. So it's like Alaska, it's negative 20 degrees. He's all bundled up, but you start to lose temperature, And he gets back there, and the comment that he made was, he goes, there's really no greater feeling in the world. And this is somebody like talks about his family a lot, so he's like, there's no greater feeling than when my daughter gives me a hug, but he said it like so viscerally. He's like, there is no greater feeling than when you get to be around a fire again after you've been freezing. And I thought about it, and I tried to put it in perspective for myself, because here, it gets out to like 100 or something like that, and I get back inside from 100 degrees, and it's great to be back in the AC, no doubt about that. But there really, for myself anyway, there is something to be said for being warm again when you were cold. Because it's like when you're really, really freezing, it's like for myself anyway, it feels like your body's like almost like stopping, which is, I think, what's happening. Like you're slowing down, everything is beginning to slow.
Sure, because your body starts going to the
Going into shock.
Well, a shock, hypothermia.
Yeah.
And your body starts changing with that. So it basically, when you get that real quick turnaround, you're getting like endorphin rush.
Exactly,
Like you're getting an adrenaline pump. And it's like,
all the heat goes to the core,
to the
just
center to
keep
keep
you
the
alive,
organs alive.
which is why your hands and feet get cold.
Exactly
your body's
right.
just like, we can spare those, can't spare the heart,
Right.
But I find that, I will say that, and again, this ties in with why I actually do love this time of year, that is a great feeling. You go outside, and obviously, like, the situation that I just described, that was kind of forced upon this person, and sometimes it is, and then it's going to particularly suck. But I'll go outside and dick around in my backyard and do like work outside, and I'll push myself, and I'm getting fucking freezing. I can't feel my hands, can't feel the feet. It's fucking cold.
And there's also another thing, though. I'm glad you said it. You can modulate your temperature by working.
Oh, yeah. Because on the flip side of that, it was maybe like 3 years ago, I got a delivery of bluestone for my driveway.
Right,
So just gravel. Happened to get into a cold spell. I had a 7-ton pile of bluestone just chilling there. And I was like, I have to. I'm inside my like cozy house looking out the window, peering through the blinds.
That rock hasn't moved itself yet.
Sipping a coffee, and I'm like, I really do have to do this. So I was like, let me get out there. So I bundle all up. It's a million layers. I think it was like 7 degrees out, I think, before the wind chill. And I I saunter my way up to the top of that pile, and I start shoveling it. 20 minutes later, I was in a t-shirt and I was sweating.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You cannot be more sedentary in the summer.
Exactly, yeah. Sitting still is as close as you can get.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's the thing that usually makes me cold when I go to these Army-Navy games is that I'm just sitting there.
You're just sitting there.
Yeah.
Exactly
or,
right.
Or I'm just standing there. The last time I went, I was at the very top of the stadium. Like I could touch the Hubble telescope.
And that's also an argument. I don't know what's worse because, like, sitting there, it's just sucking. If you're sitting on those, whatever, plastic, metal, whatever the case may be, it's just pulling the heat out of your ass.
Yeah.
But like you're standing there, like your hamstrings feel like they're just gonna like snap off the back of your fucking legs.
You kind of have to just rotate between the two. But like, if it's the Army-Navy game, I'm standing the entire time. Like, come on, boys.
Well,
let's
you
get
got
this
so much
done.
internal rage too that I'm sure that fuels
you
you
warm.
a little bit.
Yeah. Well, something that can comfort me during that eternal rage is a nice winter drink.
Ah, yes. Okay. Oh, shit. We never talked about anything like this before.
No, we haven't. And that's actually, it kind of ties into everyone take a drink if you're listening to this podcast. When I was in the Navy, you had to change your uniform based on the season. So if it was like fall and winter, you're going into your blues. And
Right.
If it's like spring, summer, you're going into your whites. I like to do that with my drinking. Like, I know I'm drinking like a gin and tonic right now or a gin and club.
Right.
But that's also just that's a mainstay. I
Oh,
can't really get rid of
listen,
that.
I hear you, brother.
You have two hands for a reason.
I find something and I stick to it. I remember when I first started drinking, gin and tonics, I was like, oh, this is a nice, refreshing summer drink. Perfect summer drink. And then I stuck with it for 11 or 12 years.
Yeah, I can't get away from it. Like, I don't want to drink this during the winter.
No.
Because it needs ice so
Right.
desperately.
Right.
It's a pile of dog shit without ice.
Exactly right. It's wild.
So during the winter, I've started doing this ever since my brother introduced me to the drink like a few years ago when I traveled down to Tennessee to visit him and his family. Apple cider and bourbon. It's such a great winter drink.
You've been drinking that a fair amount, I've noticed.
Yes, and it's great in either direction. If you want it cold, put some ice in it, drink
Right.
it, whatever. I did this a few years ago on a separate Christmas when I was like sick and we weren't all like worried like, oh, you're sick, like you can't even leave the house. Like I had the sniffles or whatever, a little bit of a sore throat, but I'm like, I'm not missing Christmas, so I'm just gonna go to my mom's and I just got like a pot and be like, Mom, I'm gonna warm up this apple cider. And I drank that the whole day and I'm like, I feel better and it's still good.
Yeah.
Like, because you can warm up bourbon
Yes.
a little bit and it'll
Yeah.
still be fine.
Bourbon can take it.
Yeah.
Especially things like that. So, like your drink you're speaking of, or like a mulled wine. It's kind of like a thing I keep in my head. It's like brown liquors, kind of like for.
Yeah.
Well, fuck rum. I'm not including rum in this. But,
That said, Ruskies
Yeah.
fucking drink vodka.
well, they're Ruskies.
Yeah.
They are Ruskies. Yeah, they like the abuse.
Yeah.
That's all they have. That and no hope.
Also,
You don't need hope when you have vodka.
it's cold all over, so you don't even need ice for that for any drinks there because it's just
I
fucking
mean, that
cold
is
anyway.
true. Yeah. It's not wrong.
But like this came up in one of our drinking episodes a long time ago. But like, yeah, my cruiser is like a gin and tonic. It's the drink I don't have to think about.
Yeah, it's the default.
Exactly right. I'm going to drink, but I don't want to think about it. But if I am going to think about it in the winter season, I'm going to drink more things like that'll give you that warming.
Yeah.
So
I find that
bourbon,
exactly whiskeys and bourbons and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That's the move.
And that's why I lean towards bourbon. I actually like bourbon more than whiskey. I really like Bullet, so I just kind of stick with that, especially when
Yeah.
making my
Well,
friends.
bourbons are definitely bourbon, in my opinion, as somebody who loves fucking all the varieties of whiskey.
Yeah.
I think that the bourbon variety is just much more warming than an Irish
Well,
whiskey.
it is. So Irish whiskeys are more pure to grain, whereas bourbon, by definition, is quite vague, but you tend to have more things added, say, like rye, which can be quite spicy
Right, yeah.
on the palate and stuff like that. That's why
Little
I
heat,
also
yeah.
like rye. But bourbon, I find to be a much more... It's not spiced in the way you would think of like a rum or anything like that, but it has much more of a warmer feeling.
Yeah.
Well, the bourbon's for sipping, where like the Irish whiskey, that's for just getting down to brass tacks and getting drunk.
Yeah. I mean,
that's where you just do the shot, knock back 100 shots or so.
Moses, I noticed that you're drinking a Pabst right now, so I don't know if this really applies to you. But do you like changing up your drinking habits in the winter?
Yeah, clearly.
Oh, I do enjoy eggnog. This is to stay hydrated.
Fuck you.
But I love me a good eggnog, some bourbon and eggnog.
How's your resolution of drinking more whiskey in 2024?
I drank more last year, actually.
That didn't answer the question at all.
yeah. That's a silly
you're welcome.
goddamn resolution.
Mr. Baritone, I ask you this question, but your drink changes every day.
It
so.
does. Yeah, I like the variety of life. For myself, it is the colored liquors in winter. They're more warming, and I find like a good corn liquor, like a fucking corn, basically you're like real good bourbons and whatnot, and they don't need to be good by expensive, but just like, for example, right now we're drinking the Bullet 10 year.
Yeah, the Bullet 10 year, which is actually quite affordable and very good.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And like with that, I do find it to be very warming. I go up to my buddy Adam's Mountain, and we sat there, and it's fucking, like, it's in the negatives, fucking Fahrenheit. It's fucking cold. And after a little while, you don't even notice anymore.
Exactly
Because
right.
you're both the right kind of drunk, and it's the right kind of liquor to do that. It heats you back up.
It seems to me that like another good winter drink. Now, unfortunately, I gotta have to chastise this brewery because they got rid of my favorite beer. But Leinenkugel has the vanilla porter.
Yeah.
And that one is a good beer to drink because I like porters, like the heavier stouts and stuff like that during the winter.
Yeah.
Because in the same thing, it's heavier.
Oh, I couldn't even look at one in the summer.
Oh yeah, in the summer, like it's just like, but not even just the summer though. Like in the spring and like the
forget
fall,
about
I don't even want it then.
I got to be in the dregs.
Yeah. And it's got to be like right now. It's got to be like snowing or like there's snow on the ground to really appreciate it.
For those of you listening, it snowed a couple days ago. I think the high is 24 degrees today. Everything is just covered in ice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is just miserable, essentially.
And we also live in that environment where it kind of like it goes back and forth, so it melts and it freezes. And
Well, this is New Jersey, so it's a little bit of a moody bitch.
Because like other places, it's like I look at that, like some of the places that I like to go and visit or that I would like to go and visit, basically north of here. Like in New York, they plow the roads correctly, and it never really melts. So they just need to get that snow off.
It's actually part of their infrastructure.
Yeah,
You know,
whereas
they know
here it's cutting corners.
Yeah.
You know? It's the same way as in the South when they get that random snowstorm.
Oh, and what-
it just everything goes to shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Everyone panics.
Texas is closed for a month just because of some snow.
You're not wrong.
Texas has been in a rough shape the past like 2 winters.
Yeah.
Whereas, and like we haven't had a bad winter so far, but our past 2 years of winter has been fairly mild for us.
Yeah.
They were in the ice apocalypse.
Yeah.
for-
Oh, yeah. That's how it is.
Oh, that actually reminds me of something too, because there's been this big push for electric vehicles. And
They're doing great.
They're doing great right now. Everyone's having a hard time charging them because it's been so cold out, like everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's have you never had batteries you've had to use like outside in the winter?
Yeah.
It doesn't
they don't work.
Your tool batteries, you're not supposed to keep in your garage. You're supposed to keep them in your house because they don't work in the extreme cold.
They really don't work in the extreme heat either, but they're like a little bit more
that is fair.
serviceable.
Yeah.
But like in the extreme cold, even charging a battery
can't.
is a pain in the ass,
Yeah.
and it's probably just gonna kill it.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening with all these like electric vehicles. They're taking hours upon hours to charge.
Right.
And you're like going, how far in this damn EV?
Yeah.
Like, good job, everyone. You didn't realize that this was going to be a problem?
That's the thing. It's all right. Like, I'm not like ride or die, like burn fuel to whatever. Even though I drive a giant gas,
You just
guzzling
want
vehicle.
practical results.
But like largely, we've had batteries for a long time, and we know what happens to them in extreme conditions. You didn't think that would apply when you're running
this time-
giant battery banks in vehicles?
This time it's going to be different.
Well, yeah, of course.
And how is this going to work when they're trying to pass all these bans? I think for here it's 2035.
I believe
of
so,
getting
yeah.
rid of
Yeah.
gas
They're
powered
going to
vehicles.
push that back in.
But it's just
anyways,
even if you're going to try and do that, let's just say it's a virtue signal,
Sure.
and it never happens.
Right.
But if you're pie in the sky, you're trying to make this happen. In practicality, it will never fucking work.
Yeah.
Because like,
people wouldn't be able to get to where they need to go.
I own a house, but I don't have a garage. In order for this to actually work, you would need a charging station in your garage.
Yeah.
And most people who will buy these vehicles, first of all, they're very expensive vehicles.
Yeah.
So you're probably either going to be in an apartment, you're going to be renting, or you're going to be like me and you have a small ass house with no garage.
Also, like battery banks have a life cycle of sub 10 years. So
Yeah.
it's good on you for trying, folks, but like you got to really think about this shit.
Yeah. And take into account, like if you live in California, fine. It might work out for you because it's usually warm there and it's not going to affect the battery.
different
too much.
environment.
But if you live in Maine,
Yeah.
don't buy an
It's
EV.
right
No,
out.
you can't. No. Have
Just
some
doesn't
sense.
work then.
You got it. Like these overall giant objective. It's like for people that especially live in extreme climates, that shit just don't fly.
Yeah.
It's not going to work
Just
out.
don't fly because like Maine could be a weird one sometimes. And if they were ever to push that, should it flip that way, it's the people in Maine guys like be like, bro, that shit ain't gonna fucking work.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those like disconnects as well, where it's like somebody from X environment doesn't understand that there's people who live in, fucking Y environment, and they're trying to pass laws for those other people. And
Well,
that's
a
really,
lot
but
of this
that's
stuff
true of
tries to get
everything.
passed universally without
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah,
for,
It just doesn't
It's all
work.
blanketed across, and it's like,
Yeah,
those
you
other
know.
people be damned.
Yeah, it's the same way. It's like not for nothing. I mean, it's fucking New Jersey. We live in fucking New Jersey. It's a goddamn very urbanized state. So
Yeah.
a lot of people can use electric cars here. But I myself, in a given day, when I'm like doing work and whatnot, I can put on 400 miles in a day. And it's nice to not have to stop to go and recharge, as it were, for an extended period of time. Because it's not 10 minutes filling up the tank. And that's what it is. Like, I drive more than most people do. So if you're only driving back and forth to work and it's, let's say, 20 miles,
sure,
then that's great. Get an electric car. You do you. But like for myself, that wouldn't work. And certainly if it's fucking freezing out, then I don't want to be standing out there the whole fucking time.
Yeah. Oh, that's got to be awful. Yeah. Especially just like, oh. God.
And I say that as somebody who loves winter.
I'm saying you can't run the car while it's charging, right? I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I don't think you could do that.
No. You would never be able to, at least from the infrastructure we have around here,
charge it while
the charge
using
rate.
Yeah.
That gives you a good reason to go and make friends with Raj, who works inside of the gas station, and learn a little bit about his culture as well.
All right.
I mean, if you get really cold, you can cross-polarize your battery cells and blow up your car. And burn
That's
it.
true. Yeah.
Well, I could do that with gasoline.
Yeah.
Or just
Easier.
Yeah.
All right, so we're talking about a little bit about traveling, with it being so cold out. Where would you actually like to live? You've made mention, Mr. Baritone, that you would like
New
to
Hampshire.
go, New Hampshire.
New
Up
Hampshire.
You'd like to do a Walter White situation.
Absolutely. I want to live in the middle of nowhere. I feel like that's the goal because, I mean, the downside to places like that, and I've got a lot of reasons for having an affinity for places like New Hampshire. But what I will say is that if we're just keeping it to the winter subject, there's very few people on the road up there.
Yeah.
And the people who are on the road know how to drive in it.
Yeah, more accustomed, accustomed. Because when you got to deal with it more regularly, you don't have the Atlanta problem from a couple years ago.
Right, exactly, yeah. Because people even, and that's exactly what you just said. It's basically people come here to New Jersey and they're from Florida, maybe always live there, that type of thing, and they don't know how to navigate a road that's got a little bit of ice on it, or it's rain. I mean, basically, you learn how to drive in your own environment, and it doesn't translate well very often, and you end up with really shitty drivers on the road.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in Virginia, too.
Yeah.
It's just like, when you go to Virginia, it's just also... The unfortunate part about that place, too, once you start getting to the Hampton Roads area, is that the elite meet to drive shitty because they're all around all around the country. Like, you got people from Oregon and you got people from New Jersey. Yeah. They're all trying, and they all have different driving,
it's
instincts.
styles.
And, styles.
It's not like it's not a unified, homogenized style.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of different shit that is just bashing up against each other.
And that actually reminds me, too, when I was, stationed in Norfolk, we literally had a delayed opening in the Navy.
Wow.
The delayed opening. These are the people that are trying to defend your country.
I love that.
There's a delayed opening for a warship.
Sorry, Saudi Arabia. We're taking a snow day here. We can't come to war.
How dated.
That's fantastic.
I remember because I was living on the ship at the time. I remember waking up and I'm like, oh, by the way, like muster's at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And I'm like, there's a delayed opening for the Navy? What the fuck is this? I get we're in Virginia and no one knows how to drive in the snow here.
Accelerate your life, Dan.
Yeah.
It's so funny because, all right, so locally, the last big blizzard I remember was about 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, where we got almost, I think it was like 32 inches practically overnight.
Yeah.
Which pretty much shuts down everything. I still had to report or risk not getting paid.
God.
And it's like, fuck you. I didn't make it in.
Yeah.
And it took like arbitration and shit through the union to get me paid at
a certain
9
point,
months later.
And at a certain point, it's like, you know what? Keep your money. I don't fucking want it.
I mean, like sometimes you can't drive.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing. Your vehicle can't get through it.
I ran into that. Speaking of that, Would You Rather earlier in the episode, I was literally snowed in at a job site back when I was a maintenance repair install electrician. I was out in Hopewell. It was raining here, but Hopewell, it was like pounding snow.
Yes. Yeah.
I did at one point call the service desk and be like, you might want to tell them I'm not coming because it has gotten really bad, on the way there. And my boss was like, oh, you're already halfway there. Just go. I'm like,
it's your life, not mine.
Yeah. You sack of shit. So I go there. There's no problem with the machine. No problem whatsoever. This is how I learned the phrase, you're chasing a ghost. So once I tried to do my, do my due diligence.
Of course.
Take a look at it, shut the machine down.
The consummate professional.
Yeah.
Plug it in, fix it.
But there was nothing to fix. There was nothing to do because all the lights were green and there's nothing in the diagnostics that say it's there's a problem. So at one point I have to call the same dude. I'm like, there's no problem here. So I gotta go. I'm getting out of here. And I drive the same car that I drive today. And it was, it's a sedan. It's a Toyota Corolla. She's got some years on her, and but she was a fairly spring chicken back then. And I'm surprised I still have her after this night because I was like, fuck this snow. I'm gonna just go because I parked down into a parking garage. I drive up there, immediately stuck. Immediately fucking stuck.
It's a Corolla.
And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go back inside because there's nothing to be done. I'll wait for them to, like, plow the roads or whatever and try to pick this up whenever I can. I'm also an incredibly light sleeper, so there was no place for me to, like, camp out and just fall asleep there because there were just people walking around. For some reason, people blasting music. It's like the middle of the night.
It was only because you were there, man.
There's the annual Dan party.
So at one point, I just say, fuck it. I got to find a way to get out of here. And so I'm just, like, I'm using, like, a foam, like, those things that you use to brush the snow off
I know
of
exactly
your car.
what you're talking about, yeah.
And I was using that because I didn't have a shovel.
You poor bastard.
To dig myself out. And finally, I saw the plow driver was coming by, and I'm like, hey, man, can you help me get out of here? And he did. And eventually, we get my car out of its predicament.
Yeah.
And he says to me, dude, fucking plow trucks, tractor trailers
are getting stuck
on 295. You might want to, sit this one out. I'm like, cool story, bro.
Yeah. You don't know me.
Yeah.
Off I go to my wintry death.
Well, I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh, it's snowing, I don't care.
Yeah.
I literally ran into that because when I started school at Rowan, it's all the way in Glassboro, but living around here, it took me 5 hours in that snowstorm.
It's brutal.
I was running out of gas, and I was like stuck on 295. No one was moving, and I'm like, I need gas just for the heat.
Yeah.
So I tried to go off on the shoulder just to take the next exit. There was a plow truck that was just sitting there, and I was like, fuck, now I gotta get back in.
Yep.
I was just desperately trying to just get to a gas station so I could fill up my tank, and then I'll just sit in traffic. I don't fucking care.
I actually have a similar story. So when I started my job, the academy was in Somerville, which isn't like North New Jersey, but off of the lovely 287. If
that's a great road.
And all good. I had to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. We'd get out around 4. Around midday, a blizzard came through, and it took me almost 6 hours to get home from Somerville, which is typically about an hour and 20-minute commute.
It's not a far commute.
I would love to share this story with you guys. I don't think I've said this on the podcast before, but I feel like you guys have heard it individually. Mm-hmm. The story of when I drove up, we'll call him Paco. I was driving up to go to an event for the business that I've got. We were driving up the Parkway, and it was one of those storms where it was like a blizzard just came through. It was still snowing a little bit, but it wasn't bad.
Right.
But it all happened right up until dawn. So we're out on the highway. We meet up. We're out on the highway. We're in an E150 van, just like a regular,
good old Econoline.
Exactly, an Econoline van, just like a fucking regular.
Same one that got us to Chicago.
Fucking A, exactly, same one. We had nothing in the back because this is returning to an event.
So it's like my work vehicle. It's a tin can.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that. I was not driving. Paco was. And as we get onto the Parkway, so we're down in Brick, New Jersey, and there is one of those fucking what do they call them? It's one of those trucks that's basically, it's got 10 wheels, but it's like a crane. Oh. It's a heavy-duty crane.
Yeah,
for building skyscrapers.
Exactly right, yeah.
One of those is there, right, on the highway, but it's upside down. On the
always a good sign.
Yeah, it went off the road, and it's got 10 wheels, and it weighs 20 tons. Yeah, So I was like, Jesus Christ, this is really bad. And you could tell, and he's driving, and he's cruising,
and he's known to speed.
And we're just driving, and some people are driving like dicks like him, and some people are driving cautiously. And we're advancing, and we're about maybe 30 minutes into the drive, and we're going over the Driscoll Bridge, in New Jersey, over the Raritan River, and right before, because our destination was New York. We're maybe 3/4 of the way there.
Pretty much, yeah.
And he's just flying, doing his own thing, just having his best life. And I'm drinking a coffee. And I'm just trying not to pay attention to it because I'm an anxious driver.
Yes.
So I'm just ignoring it. And as we come over the crest of the bridge, and it really was like this, as you come over the crest, you're able to see that there is an enormous pile up in front of you. Basically, the whole bridge iced over. People are driving too fast.
That's the thing with the Driscoll Bridge, too. It's a very steep bridge that all you can see, if you're going up, all you see is the peak of it.
It's the horizon.
Yeah. And you just come over it, and it was no joke, because I found out about this later on. It was 150 car pile up, and they're all just crashing into each other because you just couldn't stop on the downward trend.
No.
So I'm in the passenger seat, and we both realized this immediately. And it's one of those moments in my life where I just I didn't have words.
No,
because my body was just doing the things that it needed to do, and
it was preparing for death.
Yeah, right. And he applies the brakes, and it's not working.
No.
So we're just going and it's starting to turn sideways. And this is like, to me, this is the funny part where I like legitimately, like in my mind, I was just like, don't spill your coffee all over you. And like, I don't know if that's like me preparing for death. Like, don't look like this when you're dead, or, another scenario.
Well, time to change the underwear.
Yeah. But so I was just like, keep your coffee safe. Van's turning sideways. Now we're like pointed directly towards the guardrail because we're just on a sheet of ice. And the guardrail is a K-rail.
Yeah, it's K-rail, yeah.
The concrete barrier that separates you from where the bridge stops. And I remember like looking at that and like one of those weird thoughts where I was just like, and I went through these motions in my head. I legitimately thought to myself, you don't know if this van's going to go over it or through it. I'm like doing the dynamics and I'm like, I don't know what's about to happen. But in my mind, I was like, maybe you're about to go through that. I'm imagining the scenario where like this van just like blasts through a concrete,
and this is that type of thing where everything kind of slows down. Like you have like a whole diatribe in your mind and it's only been like 2 seconds.
It's been no time at all.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and we haven't touched it yet. We're a few feet away. It's happening fast. But like in my mind, I'm just like, all right, prepare for the water landing. And I've got like this scenario in my head where like I break the glass and like climb up to the top.
Also,
and it's
that's
like a movie.
300-foot fucking drop.
And then like, and that's why it's so funny to me because I look back on it in hindsight and I'm like, how did you think you were going to live? Like, that's a deadly scenario, So we end up hitting the K-rail. We bounce right off. We hit it like a million more times and we came to a stop before we hit all the cars at the bottom. And Paco was just like, are we good? And I honestly, I was in kind of like a state of panic. Like my adrenaline was wearing off.
You're in adrenaline dump. So it's just like you're hyper focused, but also like now that you're in the calm of it, you're ill suited to the moment.
Motherfucker, we ain't good. We fall from it.
And he asked me, he's like, did we hit somebody? And my answer was, I think we did, but I didn't really know.
Right.
And he was like, no, we didn't. I was like, well, then why the fuck did you ask me? Right. But anyway, so I was like, just get us out of here because there's more cars coming over. Like obviously this is like a thing, So he starts driving again. Didn't spill my coffee, by the way.
The small blast.
It was super
linings.
close. It was super close. Thank God I was wearing my seatbelt because he's such a lunatic driver. But anyway, so I was like, just get us out of here. I was like, just whatever it is. We hit this other shit. Obviously the van's fucked up, but I was like, but just get us out of here. And he starts going, and we very quickly realized that we could not make lefts. It was just, like the only thing that you could do was turn the wheel right, but if you turned it even a little bit left, it would grind.
Yeah.
Because there was so many parts of it that were fucked up and bent into the wheels. So it's just like, we're just making rights until we get to where we're going. And let me tell you how long it takes to get to a gas station that's 2 miles from you when you can only make right-hand turns.
Wishing for those jug handles.
Oh my God.
Northern Driscoll Bridge, you had to have gone through like 17 towns.
It
just to get
was
to that
forever. We had to park multiple times so I could like get my calmness back.
You just go through, Hope Lawn. I've only heard of it, but I didn't know where it was.
No, it was a to-do.
I went through something like that. It was when I was living in the back of Baywood. Long, windy road. It was, I guess it was that blizzard that you were referring to.
Yeah.
It's fun to drive when it's snowing because if it's dark out, you go really fast and it's almost like you're doing warp speed.
You're doing like the Millennium
Falcon thing.
Yeah.
And so that was in the back, like, I'm like, oh, it's going to snow. Awesome. So I stocked up on acid.
Yes.
Because if it looks like that when you're sober, imagine how awesome it is when you're high on acid. And granted, it was, but I lost control at a point. And on this road, there is a street, then there's a lagoon, then there's the next street, and like rows of houses in between that.
And this area is all just individual
Little
streets separated by lagoons.
So I dicking around because I was high and I lost control and, slammed on the brakes. And I was also trying to like kind of skid out because it's fun. And I came so close to putting this car into a lagoon. It stopped right at the edge of a bulkhead with the front end over the bulkhead. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God.
You were high centered on a bulkhead.
Yeah. And I was just like, I am so glad I live close because I desperately need to change my pants. But it was like, and the LSD kind of wore off real quick until I got home.
Oh, yeah, sobers you up.
I was just like, I didn't know I could do that on acid, but all right, here we are, sobriety.
That's the thing. That adrenaline dump will really damper down anything that's been impeding you or elevating you whatever,
Elevator.
whatever way you want to
That
look
car
at it.
still did the castle run in 12 parsecs, but
You son of a bitch.
Another, it's not so much a travel story because the way what happened is that, it snowed the evening before. I am electrician, so I have to go out and go to a job site, get on the parkway, start driving, and then all of a sudden, boom! One of my tires, my front tires, goes right into the car practically. I was in the far left lane too, and I have to just try to find. And also, it had snowed so much that there was no shoulder in either direction.
Right.
So I just had to go to the.
It was just the lanes.
Yeah.
That's all you had.
I had to go to the right lane to be the least inconvenient to everyone, and I couldn't drive. Just getting to that point was just driving the tire into my car more.
Yeah.
I had to,
slowly shaving it away.
yeah, and I had to call like a tow truck. They had to tow me out of there. I think because it was the ball joint.
Yeah, a ball joint will shear, and then essentially now you have no control on the knuckle, and it just rips the wheel into the back end of your wheel well.
I was like, oh wow, I could have died.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's a fucking nightmare.
So I don't have a good history, I guess, so far driving in the snow. Even though I do eventually make it back to where I'm supposed to be.
All's well that ends well.
Yes.
At my job, I used to drive, we call them 2 tons, but essentially they're a truck that weighs about 8 tons. They're these big box trucks. Think of something like a UPS style truck. Quite heavy, but also for how big they are, not as heavy as they should be when unloaded. And I would have to go out there and couldn't make it up hills.
Yeah.
And you would get halfway up, and you just start sliding in a 14,000-pound truck that is just gonna go wherever it wants to go.
It's a terrifying scenario. I did that once with you were there for it, Moses.
Yes.
We had we were trying to drive that exact same van before it got all mangled by Mr. Paca. We were trying to drive that van up a hill, and it was like I'm full.
It wasn't
on the
even a terribly steep hill.
No, but it was a hill of ice.
Yeah, it was a complete ice.
Did
So
you
you're
guys have
full
an
on
issue
the
like
gas.
this at the armory?
Yeah, it
This
was the
is the one-
armory.
yeah.
That's the exact one. Yeah, it was just like I'm full on the gas, and the wheels are just spinning. There was no way to get out of that either.
Yeah.
Because it was just like you were just fighting gravity.
And it wasn't a large, it was like one lane, really.
Yeah.
And other cars
I'm
are.
like, I'm gonna fucking roll into the back of the person who's right behind us, who was way too close.
What was great about that was because it was a beer event, and they were just dumping water down this hill.
They were
and it's
so
they were doing
awesome,
this all day, and it just became a thick sheet of ice where the only way to really clean it is with a Zamboni.
It was an absurd scenario.
Oh my!
I don't know why they decided to do that, or why they thought that might be a good idea.
For the fun, I guess.
It was
People are stupid. That's what it comes down to.
like there were cars already parked out there that the ice got underneath their tires, and they were inside doing whatever, and their cars are just leaving because it's just ice, and there's nothing to stop it because they're on an incline.
Oh my God!
And everything there is so fucking hilly.
Yeah.
It was just absurd.
Even the get up to that area is a weird, twisty.
And getting inside of that building, so it's like you've got about 10 feet laterally, but the incline is 10 feet. So it's like a fucking, it's a proper triangle.
Oh God, you got a 45-degree
and you have to floor it. But then when you get inside, you're also on ice. So there's no way to do it in a responsible manner. And everybody's just waving you on, just yeah, get it. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to kill somebody.
It was just a poorly made carnival ride.
Yeah.
So I actually want to return to the question that I asked you, Mr. Baritone, but I didn't get a chance to ask you.
Oh,
because
yeah.
We are running on time here.
Yeah.
Justin, is there a place that you would rather live than have to deal with all the winter weather and all that stuff, or would you prefer staying in the cold weather area like this?
You know what? I don't know if I would necessarily stay here, but I feel like I would kind of still deal, just from other sensibilities I have with dealing with the winter and the ice and shit like that. I grew up on it. I'm essentially trained on it. I drive. I'm on the road every single day. I'd stick with it.
Moses, how about you?
I'd probably go to San Diego.
San Diego sounds like a good, it's nice there.
It is.
Yeah.
I have the most delightful Earl Grey ice cream. Earl Grey tea. And
You bitch ass
that's
motherfucker.
delightful.
Very good.
I like how that's what you're using to go to San Diego.
Yeah, it's nice. I had some. I had elk there too. That was nice.
In full respect, I have friends that live in San Diego, and yes, it's very nice. It's very consistently 70 to 75 degrees.
Yeah.
Beautiful place, but there is something deep inside me that loves the seasons and the markers of change of time.
Yeah.
That's something that back in my college days when I interviewed like the coaches for, the college basketball team or whatever. The one that was, in Ocean County College, that guy was coaching in Hawaii. And he came back here. And I'm like, all right, first question, why the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck, man?
And he kind of said the same thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that I miss seasons. In Hawaii, it's the same.
I like the change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that, but also, it's fucking Hawaii.
Oh,
dude.
no.
What are you doing?
Look, I definitely... I'm not naive to the appeal. I see it and I get it. And in like 10 years, when I have to have like knee replacements and shit like that, I may appreciate something like that. For me, who has like sometimes severe neurotic issues and like I like markers of time, it's always something to look forward to. It's like always that thing that's on the horizon. Oh, spring's coming. I could start to plant this, or summer's coming. And I won't swim in the water, but I'll go do beach things or something. I don't know. There's opportunity there. I like that change.
Yeah.
I think that for me, in particular, the change is good, and I like those markers.
I'm up in the air. San Diego sounds nice, but it's California, so
It
fuck
is
that.
California, which I would have a very hard time in.
I would have a lot of problems. In California.
Well, you even more so than I.
Yeah. And then I also would have the problem because I've kind of viewed Tennessee and Florida as destinations to move to. Now, Florida gets too hot, but also I've lived by a beach pretty much my entire life. I wouldn't want to move away from a beach situation. So I would like to be
That is
around there.
You know, that's also a valid point too. So, like, more or less, all of us, we've all grown up in this general shore area. You have access to the ocean. You have access to rivers. You have access to the water.
For me, it's water.
Yeah.
I like to be near water, but you can build a pond anywhere.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I were to go inland or into mountainous areas, I would like at least relatively close access to a lake or something.
Yeah, something like that. But there's something about this, the sea air, the saltwater air.
Yeah,
that
I agree.
There's something special to that.
I think if you're from here, you kind of get it. It's just something that's in you.
Yeah.
You like to have that access.
So, like the place that our friend Kate lives, that would be a place that I would like to go to. It's it's kind of conveniently located, 2 hours away from Miami, 2 hours away from the Jacksonville area.
Right.
Geological oddity. 2 hours away from
everything.
But it's like a small-ish town. It's kind of like this town, but like there's beaches there. I like the beaches in Florida because you don't have to pay to get on them. You can drink a beer on
What's
them.
that like?
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
You're not constantly having the government like crack down on you. Like, how dare you try to have fun on a beach, you piece of shit.
How dare you try to get what you paid for?
Yes, exactly. But my problem is heat. I don't like being in the heat, and it gets very hot in Florida.
Yeah.
So that would definitely strike that one down.
And that's my trade-off for it. Like I mentioned Colombia before, but like that's just it. It's like if that's your thing, there's a million fucking places to go that are so much cheaper that are basically just Latin American countries, and they do that. Unless you like the cold, like enjoy it, there's not a lot of reasons to be here, in any cold climate in the United States, basically,
So I'm kind of leaning towards Tennessee.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like that nice little medium point where it'll probably be a little warmer, but also at the same time, they got hammered. They got hammered with snow.
This last run hit a lot of the country that doesn't typically get it. So, hey, we're all fucked. Then we die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, let's leave the audience on a high note.
Yeah, enjoy that, fuckers.
And now we're in the winter of our discontent.
I was waiting for someone to say that.
Yep.
Well, you shouldn't be discontent about subscribing to this podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. Check us out on YouTube and Rumble. Make sure that you like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell. Follow us on social media. We are at Loud and Drunk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you enjoyed this episode, then become a Loud and Drunk supporter at loudanddrunk.locals.com and patreon.com/loudanddrunk. So, for Justin, Moses, and Velvet Baritone over there, Stormy never came back.
Yeah.
No, he's laying in the corner. We got to get that guy to a hospital.
We'll find him.
Also, we're going to go and look for him now.
Also, we got to fire whoever let him do that because he left me high and dry. High and dry while I was introducing him. So.
Oh no, he'll get the reckoning.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Storms does a good job.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Winter is coming for him.
Oh yes.
all right.
I'm exacerbated.
Well,
Save it for home.
So for all of us at Loud and Drunk, thank you for joining us, and until next time.
Stay frosty, motherfuckers.